How important is planning in business? We're going to answer that question in this video. Okay, let's rock. Let's talk about the incredibly good topic, how important is planning in business? Whether you're starting your business, you're in the process of setting it up, or you're already in business, it's incredibly important. But I want to dive deep. I want to go deeper into why planning is so crucial to your business's survival long term. It's something we've really got to keep homing in on and talking about. I've discussed this in past videos, so make sure to watch some of those videos as well. Okay, so currently right now, I own, manage, and operate 7 different businesses. And you might say, how the heck do you do that? I have one business. It's tough enough. I use all my time. Yeah, that is generally what happened when I had only one business, is all my time went into that business. But as time went and I hired people and trained them and showed them the way, we needed to do stuff, showed them the ropes in a sense, right? They became really good at their trade and they were able to take over a lot of those tasks from me. And we continued to train and hire new people to fill those positions. So the short answer is, if you want to learn how to go to the next level, even if you only want to have one business, that's fine. Maybe you want to grow it. You want to grow it to the moon. That's great. The way you do that is by putting great people in and teaching them the way you want stuff done. And you do that with good written processes, good standard operating procedures, or SOPs as people like to call it. And you basically have documents that you can refer back to, and if you lose somebody, they quit or you fire them or whatever, and you need to hire new staff, you've got a playbook to show the new people, the new personnel, how to do what they were doing. And that's important, right? Because if you think about it, these gigantic corporations like McDonald's and any franchise, I think of all the pizza joints, right? Pizza Huts and Papa John's and all this. How do they have thousands of locations worldwide, and how do they make everything taste the same, and how do they have that same level of service regardless of where that you go? And the answer is they have great processes, great standard operating procedures, and they've got obviously great personnel, great staff, great management. Those people are able to implement those processes and hire and train, and they go through this endless cycle of growing the business. So it's easy for them to open up another 10 locations because they've already got it down pat. And so the way they did that initially was they planned. They planned how they're going to do all this, and they set up those processes. That's something you've got to do. I always love using the example when planning a business, planning your strategies, setting up your systems, planning your next location that you're going to open, whatever, is plan in business like a pilot plans a landing when they're getting ready to land a plane. A pilot never just lands a plane. They've already set up the flight plan and they know everything that they're going to do. I mean, obviously the unforeseen circumstances that come up, like, bad turbulence that just hits the plane. I mean, they can't control just a random gust of wind, right? But a lot of times they can really control that by communicating with all the different towers who might, deviate the initial flight plan to get them out of bad weather and things like that. But when they're going to eventually land at their final destination, that's been pre-planned. And so I want you to think like that when you're planning your business, whether you haven't started out or whether you're in it right now and you're saying, hey, we've got to set some more goals. We've got to start planning for X, Y, and Z. So I'll use an example, my trading card business. Every single year, with the exception of COVID-19 because they've canceled all the events, we always go to different conventions and events. And we do this because we find it highly beneficial. We meet a lot of our existing customers. We make new customers, we meet a lot of our distributors and manufacturers, and there's a lot of magic that happens at these events. So we absolutely love going to them. What a lot of people don't know is we plan for these events sometimes as much as a year or more in advance just to go to these events. So as an example, I'll use Gen Con. Gen Con is a big gaming convention for like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering and all the different board games and things like that, miniatures. So it's been going on for, I think, 50 some odd years at this point, depends on when you're watching this video, but it's a 50 plus year event. It's super successful, a lot of attendees, very difficult for new companies and exhibitors to get into because it's sold out every year. But every single year, we plan a year in advance for that. In fact, we renew our following event while we're there at that event. Like literally a year prior, we start putting our deposit down on our booths for the following year and start making plans and things like that. So I'm using that as an example because in order for us to have a successful show, a successful event, we have to plan like a year in advance because we're running the business and we're also doing other events, right? So we're keeping up with the standard business. And then we've got to make sure, hey, we pack and pull all the product we're going to need. And that requires pulling it out of inventory, right? And then taking it to the show. And then when it comes back, putting it back in inventory, and all these processes you go through. And you're planning your hotel rooms. If you don't plan, you're not going to have a hotel room downtown. You're going to be 10 or 20 miles away from the convention center. That's not fun. You got to plan if you need a rental car, your flights, if you're renting a truck or, a minivan, whatever. All of that stuff has to be planned in advance. And then your personnel, your staff, you got to let them know. You got to find out who's going to be on your show team, as we call it, right? Who's going to be going to that event. And so things like that. So it's important, not just with conventions, but with any goals and anything related to what you want to do in business. It's super vital that you're planning ahead. Don't just wing it. I actually used to do that with my baseball card shop back in the early 90s. We didn't have any standard operating procedures. We didn't have any game plans. We would just show up, unlock the store, wait for customers to walk in, keep ourselves busy by like sorting cards or, if a customer came in, shooting the bull with the customer and just saying, hey, what'd you think of the Kansas City Royals game last night? Or what'd you think of the Chiefs game? Or, whatever. We didn't have a plan. And it ended up slowly working, but had we have planned things a lot better and created, like you do before you start a business, you create a business plan. When you start putting stuff down on paper, it's amazing to see how much magic happens because you'll write down one thought and that'll make you think of 3 other thoughts just by simply writing it down. Or you'll write stuff down and you'll come back to it like the next day or next week and you'll say, holy cow, I didn't think of these 5 things. And by having it written down, you start creating like a hit list, right, of things that you want to actually accomplish in your business. And that's kind of the whole planning thing ties into goals. And I always say, if you don't set goals, you don't have goals in your business, what targets are you aiming at? You're just kind of free drifting, free floating if you're not doing that, so to speak, okay? So you want to make sure, like if you've got financial goals, if you're like, hey, I'm doing $300,000 a year in sales, and I'm not really making that much money. I'm only making, $40,000. I'm only paying myself $40,000 for $300,000 in sales or whatever the number is. And I really would like to get to $500,000 in sales. Well, write that on like a vision board, like put 2021 goal, like it's the year's 2020 right now. So years from now, this will become obsolete, but you'll put like 2021 goals. Or if you're watching this in the year 2030, put 2031 goals, okay? Et cetera, et cetera. And put sales, $500,000. If you're doing $500,000, you want to get to $1 million, put $1 million. And one thing that I love is when we had our card shop many years back, I remember one of our neighbors was like a skincare company. I think if I remember, it's called Romay. And I remember I would go in the back sometimes and we would visit with some of the staff there, and I would see they would have on the back wall taped a monthly goal. And it was neat because they had a thermometer. It was like the girls would like draw like a thermometer and they would start filling it in and like a red marker. They would get like a marker and like say their sales, I'm just making this up, say their sales for a month, their goal was $25,000 in sales. So they would have $25,000 March, it probably was like 1999 or something like that, 1999 goal. And then every day they would fill in, they would have like the little tick marks for like 5,000, 10,000, whatever. And they would color in as their sales would increase. But it gave them something to shoot for, something to aim at, right? And they would hit that goal. And sometimes it'd be neat. They would break their goal at the end of the month and the red would come out. So it'd be above the $25,000 line. And, as an example, and they would just keep scribbling and whatever. And so it'd be like, hey, we did good. And then another recommendation is when your employees meet those goals or break them, you could give them a bonus because you're now incentivizing them to make you more money. And so everybody wins. There's no reason not to do that. So if you've gotten your business to a point where it like averages so much per month, in January, February, March, whatever, and you say, hey, let's add 20% to that number as a goal, or 30%, 50%, whatever number you want to add. So you add those numbers. Why don't you incentivize your staff and say, hey, if we meet this goal by the end of the month, I'm not only buying dinner, a steak dinner for everybody, whatever, I'm also going to give everybody a $250 bonus, whatever number you can think of, whatever makes sense for your business. But you say, hey, so then they're thinking, holy cow, maybe that's their car payment. Maybe that helps them pay for an unforeseen expense. But now they're super motivated and super incentivized to help you plan and meet those goals. So this is how important it is to plan ahead in your business, whether you're doing financial goals or, like I said, you want to plan a convention or anything like that. It's vital to the overall success and long-term success of your business. Okay, everybody, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like it, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe. I'd like to keep delivering videos. Remember, in business and in life, it's never easy for anybody nonstop. Everybody runs into ruts, and it does get tough. And no matter how hard it gets, remember from me, never give up, push hard, keep pushing, and be the hustler.